All right. Today we're going to discuss the shifting sands of the Middle East, the new alliances. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to explore the most dynamic, complex, and strategically significant transformation occurring in our world. The shifting sands of the Middle East and the emergence of new alliances that are reshaping global politics. For decades, the Middle East has been characterized by rivalries, ideological division, and episodic conflict, but beneath the headlines is a profound realignment of unfolding, one driven by an economic necessity, geopolitical calculations, technological ambitions, and a rise of regional power structures. Understanding these shifts is essential not only for the appreciating the region's future, but also for recognizing how they affect global stability, energy markets, migration patterns, and international security. To begin, we need to understand the first major driver of this realignment strategy: fatigue. After years of conflict stretching from Iraq to Syria, from Yemen to Libya, regional powers and external actors have grown weary of perpetual instability. What we are seeing now is a widespread desire to consolidate, rebuild, and restabilize. For example, Saudi Arabia, once highly active in regional conflicts, has shifted toward economic diversification under the Vision 2030, I want to say. This has brought about diplomatic softening with previously hostile actors like Iran because conflict drains capital while peace attracts. The same of Saudi Arabia that led a regional condition in Yemen is now negotiating ceasefires and reopening diplomatic channels. This pivot reflects a new reality, the stability now more valuable than dominance. Another crucial shift comes from the emergence of multi-layer competition, especially between the United States, China, and Russia. The Middle East is no longer a one superpower arena. Instead, countries in the region are leveling multiple partners to maximize their strategic autonomy. Consider this example of the United Arab Emirates. Historically aligned with the United States, the UAE was diversified by strengthening ties with China through the Belt and Road Initiative, Chinese 5G technologies, and collaborating on renewable energy projects. Yet at the same time, the UAE remains an active military partner to Washington and participates in Western aligned security frameworks. The dual alignment, once unthinkable, shows how nations are now playing all sides to secure economic investment, technological access, and political leverage. Equally important is the Abraham Accords. Now, this came under with Trump, which was an agreement that normalized relations between Israel and several Arab states, including the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. The Accords represent one of the most diplomatic shifts in the modern Middle East. For decades, Arab Israeli hostility defined regional politics. Today, cooperation between Israel and the Gulf states is expanding in technology, water security, defense systems, and intelligence sharing. One concrete example of this is Israel's participation with the Gulf countries on integrated missile defense systems designed to counter shared threats such as ballistic missiles and drones. What once seemed impossible, Arab nations openly collaborating with Israel is now a foundation for regional economic zones, trade routes, and joint security arrangements. Nowhere is this shifting landscape clearer than the evolving relationship between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Historically rivals, their conflicts fueled proxy wars across the region. Yet in 2003, the two nations restored diplomatic ties in an agreement brokered not by the United States, but by China. The single development signals multiple deeper changes. First, it reflects the regional exhaustion with unending rivalry. Second, it highlights China's rising influence as a peace broker. Third, it shows a pragmatic recognition that cooperation, even limited cooperation, yields more tangible benefits than hostility. While the relationship remains fragile, the impacts are real. The reduced tension in the Gulf, fewer attacks on oil infrastructure, and increased trade discussions. The detente is not about friendship, it's about survival, economics, and recalibrated priorities. Excuse me, I got tongue tied. The next major shift involves the country of Turkey, a nation whose alliances have always been fluid but became even more unpredictable in recent years. Turkey's position straddling Europe and the Middle East gives it remains a crucial member of the alliance. Turkey has depended ties with Qatar, coordinated with Russia and Syria, and maintained a delicate balance with Iran, while simultaneously negotiating trade deals with Europe. The multi-directional approach demonstrates Turkey's The multi-directional approach demonstrates Turkey's ambition to become an independent regional power broker. A prime example is Turkey's use of the drone diplomacy. Turkish Bayraktar drones have been exported to countries such as Ukraine, Azerbaijan, transforming Turkey into a significant defense. Influencers whose technological footprint shapes conflicts far beyond its borders. An evolving alliance structure centers around energy transitions. The global move towards renewables is changing the political, logical, and regional oil-dependent states, diversifying their economies and forging allies based on technology rather than ideology. They rely heavily on green hydrogen production and renewable energy partnerships with European and Asian states. These alliances are not built or shared on religious identity or geographic proximity. They are built on a future-oriented economic strategy as the world gradually reduces its dependence on fossil fuels. Middle Eastern countries are positioning themselves as global energy innovators, not just oil explorers or exporters. One of the most fascinating developments is this rise in the economic megaprojects that encourage collaboration across borders. Consider Nome, Saudi Arabia's futuristic smart city project. Nome requires collaboration with global tech companies, regional construction giants, and international engineering firms. Its success depends on maintaining stable relationships with neighbors, attracting foreign talents, and delivering economic predictability. This type of project actively pushes countries towards partnerships because no single nation can execute such incentives. Alone, economic interdependence becomes not just beneficial, but necessary. In discussing shifting sands of the Middle East, we must also address the enduring importance of non-state actors. Groups such as Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, and various militias in Iraq still shape regional dynamics. However, that is changing in the way countries are now using economic negotiations, limited integration, and proxy de-escalation strategies to contain their influence. For example, Iraq was worked to incorporate certain militia groups into the state security framework, hoping to transform them from destabilizing armed factions into collaborative state-aligned forces. Whether this succeeds remains uncertain, but it reflects a shift of confrontation and co-opposition. Finally, no discussion of the Middle Eastern realignment would be completely without acknowledging the region's youth population. More than half of the Middle East is under the age of 25. These young people are highly connected, digitally savvy, and increasingly global in their outlook. Their aspirations for jobs, stability, technology, and opportunity are forcing governments to rethink their alliances. Nations cannot afford isolation when their populations demand integration into the global economy. The generational pressure pushes leaders towards innovation, openness, and international collaboration. For example, Saudi Arabia and the UAE are investing heavily in entertainment, education, tourism, and digital sectors to satisfy youth expectations and reduce the risk of domestic unrest. In summary, the new alliances forming in the Middle East are not accidental. They are the product of necessity, evolving ambitions, and shifting global power dynamics. Countries are redefining themselves through economic diversification, technological modernization, diplomatic pragmatism, and strategic multipolarity. The region is moving away from rigid ideological blocs and towards flexible, interest based partnerships. These transformations carry enormous implications for global trade, security, and energy futures. The Middle East is not merely reacting to global change, it's actively shaping it. As we look ahead, one thing is clear: the sands of the Middle East will continue to shift, but unlike in the decades past, these shifts are increasingly shaped by cooperation rather than confrontation, by mutual economic benefits rather than zero-sum rivalry, and by a shared recognition that the future demands adaptation. Understanding these developments allows us not only to grasp the region's complexity, but also envisions a world new alliances can open pathways to stability, prosperity, and peace. Thank you.